Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are talking about global food shortages that are to happen in 2023. I have been getting many messages from some of the guys that have been wondering where I'm getting this idea from, because apparently there's no food shortages in the shops right now. Absolutely, at the moment, although we have some deficit of certain products, however, we not per se have food shortages as advertised by a global or even UK media. So technically, no, our shelves are not empty. However, there are things to come in the next year that will probably minimize the amount of stock we see on the shelves, or as of course we will see a proper food shortages of some products. And basically I just wanted to, because this channel, guys, we are talking about prepping. Now, always prepping. I have a dehydrator behind me. We're always prepping for the things that we know are about to happen, or well, hopefully they're not going to happen, but of course we're preppers, so we're prepping. But when we see compelling information on internet, online, from different countries, telling us basically, giving us a massive clues to indicate that things going to happen, that I'm going to believe them and I'm going to make sure that I'm prepped for these instances. And one of those instances, guys, is the food shortages. And let me just tell you, for example, yes, guys, of course, seeing an empty shelf might indicate to you this is definitely food shortage. So if you're suddenly going to the supermarket and there's an empty shelf, you think, yep, we definitely have a food shortage because I haven't seen this food on the supermarket for the past like 6 months. Absolutely. But it's also an indirect food shortage. It's basically when you see an item, and I'll give you an example of rice. If you have an example, a rice currently says 50 pence, we call it, for a kilo, and there's loads of it available, and people go and I can go and buy 10 of them. And if, like, say, a few people come in and buy 10 of them, supermarket can bring it up. And if the supply is available, then it's absolutely fine. So when the food shortages will happen, this rice will still potentially remain on the shelf. But what will happen first, it will go up, for example, and I'm just literally plucking the figures out of the sky. This rice will suddenly become £10 a kilo. So suddenly when you go through the supermarket, the rice potentially will still be there, but it will be £10 a kilo. So that means, like, normally people that come through and buy 1 or 2 bags or 10 bags would not be able to afford to buy it. So those shortages are still be there behind the scenes. The shelves might still look full, so don't let it fool you. Empty shelves, yes, there's a food shortages, but full shelf doesn't always mean there's a plenty of food to go around. So anyway, as I mentioned, guys, I'm just gonna go through, for all of you who don't particularly or potentially follow the news or information, but there's some things that are happening around the world to basically, I would say, that just to justify the things that are going to be happening. But one thing I just wanted to let you know, guys, I've got my notes here just to mention a few countries and things, that just have this scenery in mind, guys. We currently, as a consumer, eating the food that is produced on the past year's harvest. So at the moment, currently, we take this year, so whatever we basically reap, we will sow next year. However, if you imagine if suddenly we don't sow half of that, or not at all in certain instances, we would not be harvesting it next year. So this is something to think about. So we'll start with the most common thing that has been in the news is Netherlands. So the government is introducing basically a tax, and by basically 2030 they are wanting to restrict their emissions, the nitrogen emissions, by 50%. If you probably have seen this many articles online where the farmers are protesting because it's basically ruining their business. So they either have to scale down their farming thing, or they have to then pay a lot more taxes. So this is automatically will introduce a shortage of whatever they're farming, and it's generally basically will be animals. So I know that the Canada and Ireland are also looking to introduce a tax on nitrogen. So you can imagine, so few countries already doing this kind of thing, and it's only going to be worse, because the whole idea it's basically to help the environment, help the greenhouse emissions, but this is what it is happening. So we're going to Sri Lanka. So they are basically banned fertilizers in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka producing mainly is rice and tea, so they're not allowed to use any fertilizer. So you can imagine what effect it's going to have on production on the rice and tea. It's basically going to be halved, if not even worse. So basically it's like nobody knows how many of the farmers are then, by the time it's 2023, how many of the farmers is actually going to survive in any of those countries. So we've got the New Zealand is trying to introduce it's really funny actually. It's tax on burps and farts of cows. So it's basically going to be a tax on emissions for your cow, and it sounds absolutely ridiculous. However, if they can monitor this, then absolutely. Apparently there was a company, and my husband done the research, that they introduced some sort of device that could measure what's in the farts and how to reduce the farts, but that didn't go any further, because probably, as you, maybe government doesn't want it to be out. I don't know. I'm not here to give you guys the conspiracy theories, but all those articles and headlines are there to be read. And basically now we are going to the UK. So UK introducing also called a lump sum exit scheme. So we all know farmers are struggling, well, literally all over the world, and UK introducing lump sum exit scheme. So they're basically telling the farmers, though, if you can't afford to farm, then we'll give you this amount of money so you can just jolly well retire and go and do something else. Many of those farmers have been doing these things for like generations, and literally hundreds of people in the family been doing the farming thing. It's one of those things that it literally stays in the family. So suddenly they can't afford to farm because of the taxes and emissions and everything else. And they say, oh, here we go, this is some money, and then you go somewhere else and basically do something else. And then at the same time reading this, apparently the land that they are going to be buying off the farmers with the exit scheme going to be then resold for some other farmers who want to start the business again. And it kind of makes you wonder what sort of farmer then would like to take up this opportunity of a failed farmer's land, considering that the prices and taxes are only going to get worse. But this is our guys, this is all there for you, and I've put obviously the headlines there for you to read. There is so much there, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys know, for whoever commenting that you're not sure about the food shortages and what the hell the preppers are talking about, there's things out there that are happening. So with all this, and including, guys, obviously the weather and temperatures everywhere, the things that have happened in the past and this year is going to have a huge impact on the amount of produce we're not going to be seeing arriving into our country, into our shelves, in many countries anyway. Again, there was apparently, they showed a report on the news this morning, like in Africa, they had like 7 years, like not enough rain, so everybody's starving and there's not enough water. So again, it's happening globally. So just please guys, if you're not sure about it, if you're not sure whether to start prepping or not, have a look and have a read of the news. All the things are there, and basically, yes, just bear in mind the empty shelves. Yes, there's a food shortages, but also don't forget the prices like meat. We're probably gonna have meat, but it is gonna be stupidly expensive. Farmers are exiting the farming game with obviously the cattle on a massive scale. So if suddenly with half the amount of meat coming into our supermarkets, our price is going to be more than double. It'll probably be quadruple the price. So let's think about it and let's prep while we can. So anyway, guys, hopefully some of you have found it helpful. I have loads of videos on my channel about how we are preparing for, how I'm preparing for basically the food shortages that are coming. We're not touching politics per se on the channel at all. We're literally a community of people that just wants to be prepared for this coming in next year now. So yeah, anyway, don't forget to thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, maybe consider subscribing, and now we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.